back up, and so we can say a proper see you later. There it is. That apparently the gremlins are out. I don't know if you know this, and this is probably why I want my bots and AI.
Did you feed them after midnight?
Sorry. I did. I gave them chicken. And that's really the mistake, especially when you watch them eat it.
Everybody likes chicken. That's the problem, right?
After midnight, you're like, it's healthier than bread. I'll just eat bread. So hi, we're back. Yeah. So yeah, obviously Putin has been attacking things, and the least of which has been the attacks that have happened. And we'll talk about this next time, Cliff, because the seriousness, genuinely, the seriousness of what's going on in Paris right now, especially around the Olympics, with what the Russians have been doing, and I mean, they literally sent arsonists. Okay, they literally sent arsonists
I just don't even know how, after what, we used to do this, at least in the 80s at times, refused to go to Olympics or whatever. But I guess we didn't ban people. We just didn't go ourselves and protest. But you know what? Mm-hmm. I don't know how, with what they're doing in Ukraine, they were allowed anywhere near this Olympics. Mm-hmm. They should have fucking been banned. But I assume the Olympic Committee, much like the soccer, world soccer, or FIFA, whatever, all these fucking people are so corrupt. It's
right.
It's insane. So
I respect the fact that there are a lot of people out there that are very giving and very respectful of the folks that are. That are naive enough to believe in the goodness of their fellow man. And I am one of those people. I absolutely believe in the general goodness of my fellow man. However, that whole trust in Allah and tie up your camel makes a lot of sense to me. Especially these days. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that. I'm going to let you go, but everybody, please check out youtube.com/@CliffsEdge. There it is with the underscore right there. Sign up for him. And then I'm going to bring on Tara, who's been patiently waiting in the background. And thank you, my brother. And next time we will have a fuller stream as well. I am coming your way around Thanksgiving at the very least. So if, I don't know.
Well, you better be. I'll start planning ahead of time.
Yeah. So I bring my kid back to see my grandparents. We have Thanksgiving at the house there or whatever. But I am in driving distance of your house, my friend. And
you are. And you just tell me if you want to do the Bourbon Trail or something of that nature, and we're there.
Sure. Well, I'll be your designated driver. You know me, because I don't do any of that shit. That's one of the reasons I was ejected from Kentucky.
Okay.
Yes.
I will only sip little amounts lest I destroy myself. Anyhow.
Even as, ladies and gentlemen, a Kentucky colonel. This is Honorable Hal Sparks is commissioned Kentucky colonel. So I am Colonel Sparks, and you shall address me as such heretofore forevermore. Thank you so much, Cliff. Really appreciate it,
Well, then next time I'm bringing my little NRA medal I won when I was on that team in the early 80s that says sharpshooter. I'm going to be sharpshooter Schechter.
Yeah, I think that's how I'm going to refer to you from now on too. So, and I have one of those.
It's even alliteration. Come on,
Tara's like, boys, stop being
waving
boys.
your dicks at each other. Jesus Christ!
I can't, and I still right now can't see you guys because of things going on. So I feel bad because if I saw Tara's face, I'd probably feel much more guilty
in a way that you can't.
Well, it's hard to not know that somebody's there waiting. It's easier to not know it when you don't see them there waiting. Now I see you again. But in any case, I'm going to go and I'm going to let you talk to Tara because Tara's awesome and I'm taking too much time. So you rock and we'll.
Cheers.
You can next time, Colonel Sparks and Sharpshooter Schechter. We'll have our conversation.
Oh, I'm for it. It's going to be so good. We got to get Brian Karam. He's also from Kentucky. We'll get a big roundtable. It's going to happen.
That's right.
Peace. We'll talk to you later.
Care.
All right,
Thanks for having
there
me
he goes. Ladies and gentlemen, Cliff Schechter. And then, of course, I have to grab a new link for Tara because what caused all our problem before was that I tried to enter in Tara's link behind the scenes using the studio mode on my software, and it crashed. So that's what that was. So, hi, Tara. I'm not leaving.
Hi, Hal.
Hi.
Cliff done talking about your dicks and proving whose dicks are bigger with your gun talk? When men start talking about guns, all I hear is, I got this big gun and I shoot this big gun, I'm a man. One time, I listened to Dave Grohl and my ex-husband talk about skeet shooting. it was hilarious because it was like, I use this gun. Oh yeah, well I use this great big gun. It's just that's all I hear. That's all I hear.
Understand.
When the men folks start talking about the shooty things.
Yeah.
I'm just like, it's big and a big stick that I put out in front of where my penis is. It's
right, and I understand.
That's just what I hear.
When women start talking about how we should get in touch with our feelings, I hear all you want to do is cut off my penis. And by the way, not throw it away. No. Keep it in a drawer next to the bed because you want my penis without the man attached. I get it. You know,
we can just buy one. We can just buy one of those if we want one.
Well, that's what it is. That's again. Yeah, that is the
because we're all castrating bitches.
That's right. Well, I would argue that if you're saying that a big truck and a gun are disassociative penises, that takes a lot of nerve coming from women who buy disassociated penises. I'm just saying.
Well, it's because of all the bullshit that comes when you get one attached to a man.
Hey,
we don't want bullshit.
I've said it in my act for many years that I think the biggest selling dildo in the world would have ears attached. Just so you could hold the ears and go, oh my God, finally he's listening. It would satisfy so many things.
There's just so much. Anyway, hey, what a difference that week made, huh?
Well, what do you know? Yeah, exactly.
Remember last Monday when I was like, ah! And now I'm just like, woohoo! It's great.
Yeah, and it was
cycled through all of the Kubler-Ross stages of grief last Sunday, and then by Monday, I learned so much about Gen Z versus Gen X, because I think what happened to me personally, and I'm only going to speak for myself here, I had a very Gen X response to Joe Biden. Because Gen X we're the latchkey kids who basically raised ourselves on hose water and neglect. And we know how to turn a cassette with a pencil eraser. That's our skill set. And so we're the latchkey kids, and a woman pointed out that we're the Kramer versus Kramer generation, and we have abandonment issues. And I think for me personally, it was like, no, daddy, don't leave me. That was me.
Oh.
By the next day, by a week ago, I had dinner last Monday with my older son who's 25 and his girlfriend. It was his girlfriend's birthday and she turned 25. And I learned last Monday that Gen Z is so excited to vote for Kamala Harris. Yeah. So excited. Like, it's not even that now they have something to vote for. They all felt like they were just voting against stuff, even though Kamala was right there on the ticket all along. Now that she's been moved up to first position, they have so much more to vote for, and they're super excited about it. Last week, I learned so much about the power of Gen Z and the meme power and Brat Summer. Lord, we are all, not everyone can have a Brat Summer. We're having Brat Summer for fucking sure. But I have learned so much.
Brat Summer, Monday not Brett Kavanaugh. Just letting people know.
No, Brat.
Yeah.
Hashtag BRAT. Kamala is Brat. And if you don't know what that means, y'all need to catch up. I have learned so much. Between listening to Black women and listening to Gen Z, I have learned multitudes. And I was also on that white woman call last week that raised all the money.
Right.
And so so we learned a lot of things last week. And last week was glorious because it kind of reinstilled my faith in the American election process and democracy and all of that, because everybody is energized now all of a sudden, which is weird because she was there all along and you should have been energized by Kamala Harris from the get-go and you weren't. And one of the first things that I tweeted once I reached the level of acceptance that I have reached was a meme, a GIF of Muppets just being like, ah! And I was like, live shot of the MSM trying to figure out how to cover Kamala Harris because they've been ignoring her for the last 3.5 years. So welcome to those of us who are more than aware of her accomplishments and her electability. We're well aware of that, but now there's more to it because we have a whole
work to do.
First of all, Black women have been mobilized to do this since the 1800s. So this should not be a surprise to anybody that Black women heard that Kamala was going to be their nominee on a Sunday, at midday on Sunday. Maybe they found that out. By that night, 44,000 Black women were on a Zoom call raising over $1 million. And then everybody else had FOMO. And they were like, well, we want to be on that call, so we're going to make our own calls. Every community now has or have already held their own calls to elect Kamala Harris. MAGA is over, y'all. White men are having their own call. White men, over 50,000 white men are going to get.
I've already RSVP'd for it.
You and Mark Hamill and John
Greg Proops.
And Greg Proops and all the good ones are getting on the call, and I'm excited to see that because it's about damn time.
I would like to say for the record, all the good ones have been on the call the whole goddamn time. And I would like to say that I have been holding the line against the fucking faux-aggressive TYT crowd since they let Hillary down back in 2016. Not on my watch, not fucking again.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. So here's what happened on the white woman call. Because there was a lot of white womaning going on.
Are you allowed to tell me?
I'm allowed to tell. There was 160,000 of us on the call, and after a while, we crashed Zoom so much that they just put the shit up on YouTube. And then the mediocre white men came into the chat trying to do stuff, and all of the women were like, "Get the fuck out!" It was beautiful. So here's what I'll say: because first of all, anybody who is moved to action, who is moved to mobilize, who is on board with voting for Kamala Harris, welcome. But it is like you said, there are those of us who have been here forever, from birth. The problem that white women have, and it was acknowledged on the call, first of all, we have to be able to call ourselves white women, which matters. We have to be able to acknowledge the privilege that we have been enjoying our entire lives, which is also difficult for some white women to acknowledge. And it's also really important to speak up outside of your protective social media bubble that you live in. Sometimes I call it white claw guilt, but white women guilt is very profitable. We raise a lot of money, but it's not just about that. Here's the thing. We always need to be learning, and we always need to be listening. And even in our advocacy at this level, we will still stumble, we will still fuck up, we will still make mistakes, but that's okay, because what we're doing is lifting our voices in support. The problem is that we have to be very careful to not make it about us as individuals or as the collective. We are here to elevate, not appropriate. And it needs to be said that there are certain memes out there that do not belong to us. I am in a DM room with black women. I listen to black women. When black women say,
like the
please
word
don't
woke?
do this. No, what I'm talking about is the coconut and the palm tree. If you are not Gen Z, if you are not Gen Z is allowed, because it's their meme game is going to help elect her. And I wrote about this for hillreporter.com.
Okay.
Her meme ability is translating into electability, but we, you and me, white people over a certain age, white women, white men, I'm talking to you, Lincoln Project. That's not for us. The coconut is not for us. The palm tree is not for us. That's not our story. That's not our history. That's not our background. Those of us with less melanin need to listen. When a black woman says, that's not for you, don't do it. It's really easy to not use the things that are not meant for us, like the N-word. Not for us. Our white privilege does not extend nearly as far as we have all been led to believe as we were growing up. So when black women say to me, we would prefer you use the lotus emoji. The lotus emoji is lovely and beautiful, and it has a connection to her South Indian heritage.
Sure.
It is not for us. So again, if you are Gen Z, go for it. If you are a person of color, go for it. If you're not for us. And I'm going to listen. Me personally, how I am doing my activism is in the way. And again, I'm not going to tell you how to do your activism, but I'm going to ask you to please be respectful when you're doing your activism. And if a room full of black women are mad about that New York Magazine cover where she is perched on a coconut with a bunch of Photoshop shitness around her, it's important to listen to that messaging and not try to justify it.
I don't feel dragged into the kind of crass commercialist clickbait bullshit that any particular magazine would try to do. And I, by the way, have a history of not participating in online iconing and emojiing because I find it's too much of a shorthand. And it seems like gang colors to me across the board. And it's no different to me than Mike Pillow wearing a cross to show other people that wear crosses that he's on the team as opposed to what it means underneath. And especially online where there's armies of bots, it pushes people to the front of the line talking about particular details in a way that they may or may not deserve. So I personally avoid all of that shit. And it's real easy not to step in it, in any of that stuff, if you talk to people using your own language and you speak honestly in the broadest possible terms and sharpen your tools in terms of rhetoric in a way that people outside the jargon sphere can understand.
Yes, and it's a really important conversation to have, because there are aspects of white privilege that you don't understand that you've been enjoying your entire life until it's pointed out to you. And this is a huge moment for women in general, but especially for women of color, Black women who have been ready for this moment for a very, very, very long time. And the problem, I think, with white women trying to step up and do the right thing is, and I have been guilty of it. No,
wait. Hold for a second. 1 second. I'm gonna exert some dipshit redneck privilege here and go. There is nothing wrong with women of any color stepping up. If they fail in, there's a difference between application and communication and ethic itself. And there is never anything wrong with anyone, male or female, Black, white, any color, stepping up to do the right thing. These are about policies. She's running to be the president of the United States that covers all the people in the country, by the way, the majority of which are white or white identifying. So they have every right to step up and communicate with whoever the fuck they want, however the fuck they want. If they step over a boundary and they accidentally insult somebody, they can apologize and move back. But the idea that we have to create some sort of fucking cul-de-sac around this is wrong on its face, and Kamala Harris would be against that as well. The same way Obama was. This, and I gotta say, even wasting time worrying about whether a white woman that comes to support Kamala Harris is doing it in the perfect needle-threaded kind of way is time not spent pointing out the fact that 18 states have 6 week or earlier bans on abortion, and 10 of those fucking states are tracking women. They don't give a fuck what color she is. They're going to track her periods, and they're going to make sure that if they ever get a chance, they're going to throw her ass in jail. That's what matters.
And not let her travel outside the state. Correct.
Right. They don't give a fuck if she's Black or white. As a matter of fact, they hope Black women get septic abortions more than the white women. They're going to attempt to let some of it slide so they can claw back some of that, like, Florida Villages vote that they're losing. Fuck no.
They're not, and there was a major Kamala cart parade in the Villages just over the weekend.
Right.
What I was going to say was, on the call, the white women call, one of the things that was pointed out from the very beginning was how white women have been traditionally afraid to raise their voices in support of communities of color and Black women because they were afraid of what the reaction to their activism would be. And one of the first speakers was Glennon Doyle, who was like, some of us are really fucking scared. We're fucking scared to say the wrong thing. We're scared of what people's reactions are going to be, and we need to fucking get over it. That was the point. That's where I was going with that, because white women traditionally have been sort of quieted into silence behind their men or in our advocacy. And again, I have been guilty of this in my eagerness. I have stumbled in my, we just don't want to sound like we're in an amateur production of The Help when we're being supportive of Black women. We don't want to be caught doing it the wrong way. That was a big discussion on that call when it was pointed out, like you said, we are here to be advocates, and if we are going to fuck up in our efforts, we're going to stumble, we're going to learn how to correct ourselves, and then we're going to move forward.
Okay, there were tens. How many women were on this call? I'm curious. There were tens of thousands.
160,000. 160,000. And the women who spoke, there were different degrees of it. There were the be careful of where your privilege begins and ends. Then there were other women. My favorite one, honestly, of all of the women that I heard speak was Connie Britton, who was in full Tammy Taylor mode. She was like, did you see? Are you paying attention? We have a fucking job to do.
Right.
That's the bottom line. We have a job to do. Close mouth, get active. And so how do you get active? How do you get motivated? How do you properly support this particular effort?
One of the big ways,
donations and share your information.
Raise money and speak like a person. don't
exactly.
if you don't
exactly.
you do not have to participate in emojis to convey your belief system. You can simply communicate it like a regular human being. You are not responsible, nor is, by the way, nor is Gen Z responsible for talking in some sort of TikTok speak just to get their point across. Does it help? Maybe. Does it not? Does it feed bots? Who can? But, well, we don't know yet. We don't know right now. In the same sense,
I wrote an article about it.
Right. Well, know what I'm saying.
We do know, because we've seen the boost from just TikTok for her, from just TikTok, is overwhelming. And I know you don't spend any time on it because it's Chinese malware and none of us should have it on our phones. I understand your point. She joined TikTok and immediately got 3 million followers in like a day. Her videos are any videos of no cap. She's got Riz. It's the Riz and the brat image, all of that is.
I'm not. That's not what I'm saying.
I'm hearing.
What I'm saying is, it has to translate
to have the conversations.
It has to translate into polling and votes. And ultimately speaking, there's a reliable chunk of the voter group. Yes, there's a reliable chunk of the voter group that is going to show up for her or anybody. The vote blue, no matter who power is there. It's one of the reasons why the Pod Save America dudes felt comfortable being knives out, not just for Joe, but for Kamala as well. They figured if they could clean slate it and we'd still get through, because Trump is on a downswing and he's never going back and he's a fucking moron. Boy. So they feel like they could broom this out. Well, the issue your
ticket is a child fucker and a couch fucker. That's your ticket. Child fucker and couch fucker. Way to go.
The couch apparently the couch story is apocryphal. However, the hot dog thing we're still waiting to hear.
To him.
But it's
sticking to him like one of those plastic couch covers. That's how much it's sticking to him.
Because it's all
stick to your ass on a hot day.
Right, because it's all it's all reasonable. Like his background is all fake. So any story made up about him is plausible in the same way that Trump was able to sell a bullshit story about his upbringing. Then every bit of truth we find out, if you found out that his money didn't ultimately come from Russia, it came from Iran at some point, and it was real, you'd go, you know what? It makes sense. Like, because it does, because his background as a criminal is the most consistent thing about him. The point I'm trying to make is, any moment we waste not attacking him, and doing this insular thing between ourselves, worrying about that stepping on toes is a mistake. Exactly. Plus, because again, she's running to be president of the United States, the majority of which is white or white identifying, especially the Latino community, which is largely white identifying. That's why that has that special addendum in all the census things. Now, on top of that, when people talk on calls like that versus the 160,000 that were on that fucking call, the ones who remain silent, I have a tremendous amount of respect for as somebody who's in a rhetorical art form, as a speaker, as a comedian, as a musician. Most of my audience is rhetorical. It does not mean they don't have input because they applaud or they say something, but they are there to listen. Now, there is a line that I keep going back to in the movie Mindhunter, that in the series, where he's talking to Edmund Kemper, the co-ed killer. And he's saying, we have this kind of killer out there and we think there's this kind of killer. And he says, it's the smartest line I've ever heard written, is that it seems to me all of your opinions have been drawn from the serial killers you've been able to catch. Meaning, you have no fucking idea how to talk to the people you haven't caught yet. And you have no idea what they're like, what their patterns are, how to get them. As a matter of fact, you only know how to catch the catchable. Does that make sense? So in a call like that, the people who talk like that to that group of people are those people. Those are the people who have figured out the political machinations of our current system and can elbow their way to the front to spout whatever their shit is, well-meaning or not, control-based or not, narcissistic or not, helpful or not. Those are the people who have figured out the way to elbow their way to the front of the line of all those other women, of those 160,000 women you're listening only to, some good, some bad. You're only ever hearing from the ones who have figured out how to elbow their way to the front, which means we only listen on our side of the aisle a lot of times in the plurality of people that we're attempting to talk to. We only listen to those who elbow their way to the front. And as somebody with sharp elbows, and myself, and I would include you in this, we define the conversation a lot of times, and we have to take great care in how we do that, because out of respect for all the people who have a belief system that of values that they share with us, but are not the kind of people that would elbow their way at the front and don't buy the interior jargon, singing to the choir bullshit that we can often talk ourselves into, if that makes sense.
Right.
That's my problem.
It absolutely does. And when it becomes about, blowing your own horn and saying, I did this, I did this,
Mm-hmm.
I started this, it started with this, I started this thing. It's just so great. Thank you for starting it, but it's not about you. It's not about the individual. It's about the collective. And so when we're able to, like tonight, there's going to be a call of just women. Do you identify as a woman? Be on the call. We don't care about the skin color. We care about the fact that you identify as a woman, that you're a woman backing Kamala Harris, that you're here in the fight and you're here for the right reasons. I believe everybody on that call was there for the right reasons. Everybody who's on their own calls are there for the right reasons. It's about,
I'm talking about the ones that get to speak. And the ones that get to speak will define that. And well, here's the thing. There is a conundrum.
I didn't want to. It's fine.
Right. There's a conundrum placed in the world of, does Candace Owens speak better for white women than Ann Coulter does? Right?
I mean,
that's where we get into.
Either one of them speaking for us.
I agree. But as a man, as a white, straight, heterosexual man in a relationship with a son who's a boy and who is not trans or gay or a part of the LGBT community or what have you, do I have, in that conversation that you're talking about, do I have the right to bring up the fact that Candace Owens has more to say about being a black woman than I do, and even if she's nuts? That's where we get into the problem. The problem has to be, we have to dial back to, what can Kamala Harris legislate during her time as president? And one of them is the overall rights of women to control over their own body. And that's where our argument must begin and end. People can define for themselves what they want to call themselves and be in public. People can define for themselves how much they believe they speak for their community or are distant from their community, because I know tons of black people that are on the outs of what would be the common conception of black culture in the country. Right? One of my favorite human beings in the world is a gay man who's in a hard rock band. You understand? Like I live around those kind of people. You live in Portland, the outsider capital of the fucking
everyone.
world. Everybody.
Name a subculture. It's here.
Right. And but
you just accept them.
Right. And MST Wash is saying, what's black culture? Exactly. That's the thing.
American culture is black culture because American history is black history. And that's another thing that we all need to be mindful of. Then it's white and
Latino history and Native history and Asian history, and for fuck's sake,
right, but
it's
American
American history.
Histories, right,
that's an exclusive,
American culture. A lot of what we call American culture is really things that have been appropriated from the black community. A black queer woman invented rock and roll. Does she get the credit as often as she should? No.
Yeah, but that's like saying Miles Davis. That's like Miles Davis owes something to the Germans for inventing the trumpet. You know what I mean? Is he appropriating a German instrument?
No, that's different. What we're saying is, when credit is due to black women, it's often not given to black women, which is true.
Then say that. Then
that's
say that, and again, no. And again, this becomes a generic overriding statement. This is an ongoing point for me, because I think it and it's worth discussing, because I feel it's the area where we hamstring ourselves instead of incorporating the people that we're discussing into American history. We language it in an exclusionary way. And I think that's wrong. And again, it'd be the equivalent of saying all lives matter when in context we're discussing the importance of black lives and the situation that black people find themselves in terms of police violence and violence in their own communities, and whether or not their deaths and murders and kidnappings are investigated with the fervor that other people's are. That's important. And so
of course it's important.
The only time I have a problem with this is when it hamstrings our fight to get the first black woman elected, and that anybody is feeling they have to drag their feet in the face of this is maddening.
It's maddening. And the problem is that when the opposition is leaning into the misogynistic and racist tropes that they can do, and calling her names and calling her a DEI hire and referring, slut shaming the vice president of the United States and bagging on her because she's not given birth. I mean, none of the men who have run for office have ever given birth, so they had to quickly change that narrative to make it to just childless. She's not childless. She's a stepmother, and being a stepmother is an incredibly important role in raising children. And she happens to get along very, very well with her stepchildren's mother, who was actually moved to make a statement about how wonderful the three of them have been co-parenting those children together for years. Like it's anyone's fucking business. Are you criticizing JD Vance's parenting? You better fucking be, because he's got a daughter, and he's out there talking about how women should stay with the men who abuse them. He's out there talking about how women shouldn't have rights to control their own bodies, which is why Jennifer Aniston said, I really hope your daughter will be able to conceive a child someday, because fuck you, JD Vance. You should not be talking about any woman's bodies. You have no right to govern over anyone's body. My body is not your battlefield.
I agree.
He's going to, but we're also going to call him a couch fucker.
Well,
so,
Well, my point is, he will. It's whether or not we feel like he has the right to do it. He's going to have the ability to do it, and Donald Trump has already had the ability to do it, because Mitch McConnell handed him one extra person on the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court got rid of Roe v. Wade. Women are second-class citizens in the country right now, not in the future, not if Trump gets in, but currently, until we undo it, until
which
the next but only
which
if
we're doing right now,
we get the White House and the House and the Senate.
But also Joe Biden announced today a few executive orders on his way out the door, and they're all impactful for the Supreme Court. He's going to instill term limits. He wants, I can't remember them all right now because we're talking live, but there's three major things that he's going to be doing, and I will write about it, but that's the path. If SCOTUS awarded Donald Trump that blanket immunity, Joe Biden gets to enjoy it too, except he's not going to abuse it. What he's going to do on his way out the door is go, oh, I can do this. I can actually instill term limits, and I can say the Supreme Court needs to be this, and we're going to expand it, and I'm also going to make sure that we codify Roe v. Wade, and I'm going to make sure we do this on our way out the door, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do this, and that's fucking great. That's the best of what the office is supposed to do. You were supposed to use that power to make this country a better place to live, and that's ultimately what we are all voting for. And if you look at the opposition and what the opposition wants, there's shit about Project 2025 that's already being implemented as we sit here, and it's already taken place.
It's not if.
Look at Oklahoma. Look at the fucking insane superintendent of Oklahoma Public Schools, Ryan Walters, who is now officially part of the Trump-Vance campaign. He's the fucking piece of shit who hired Shia Raichik from Libs of TikTok to help overhaul the Oklahoma public school systems, where they're putting the 10 Commandments in classrooms and making the Bible mandatory to be taught in public schools. Your cult bullshit doesn't belong anywhere near my public schools or my government with my tax dollars funding it. Fuck you. Take your cult bullshit to an island somewhere and start your own insanity far, far away from the Department of Education, from our elections, our government, and especially educating our children. You want to indoctrinate kids in a cult, you're allowed to do that. Do not do it anywhere with my tax dollars. Well, tax dollars.
My argument has always been the reason they're coming for public schools is because their churches are failing. Because for two reasons. One, the Republicans have turned people away from churches over the years by just denigrating every quality that they originally taught. And taking them over as funding sources, both for politics and for media.
I mean, look how they live, and look at what they've been allowed to get away with for centuries. Dominating their communities, keeping people poor and tied to the church out of just fear. And meanwhile, they're raping children, they're abusing their power, they're stealing all of that money, and they're living in these mega homes and flying around on private jets, while the poor is like, let us in, Joel Osteen, we're drowning. He's like, I can't hear you, my privilege is blocking you. So all of it is used is misappropriated funds, keeping the poor down with fear. It's all bullshit. Pay your fucking taxes. And especially when Donald Trump stands up in front of a room full of people begging Christians to vote for him because they'll never have to vote again. And then he's like, I'm not a Christian, but I love the Christians. I love the Christians.
He said he was a Christian.
Not a Christian.
No, he didn't. He said, I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian.
He said, I'm not a Christian. He said, I'm not a Christian. The word not is in there. He's
really?
He's not a Christian.
I did not hear
No, listen to it again.
Okay.
He's not a Christian, so why would you vote for him?
Well, he isn't one, I agree. Yeah.
A child fucker.
Mm-hmm. But
he did say getting sentenced in 7 weeks.
Oh, I see what you're saying. When he was saying, I'm a Christian, it sounded like I'm not a Christian. I get it. Okay, well, let me tell you, if you asked him straight on, he would say he is, and he's absolutely not.
Because he's a fucking liar. That means, like he said, he got his ears shot off. No, he didn't.
But Christians are listen, like true Christians with Christian beliefs are no more responsible for the behaviors of Donald Trump and the ilk around him like that than black people are responsible for what fucking Rachel Dolezal does. People can pose as whatever they want. That doesn't make them that thing, and it's not the responsibility of the true people of that kind to have to defend themselves against every carpetbagger and fake. Look, it's not the responsibility of the average Kentuckian to push back on Rand Paul. They should vote against him for being a carpetbagger, but allowing him to do it just in general, the fact that they live there, right? The fact that they live there and he does too doesn't make them responsible for him as a Kentuckian. Right?
No, it's really good that Andy Bashir lives there too. My son, by the way, loves Andy Bashir as a VP pick. If anyone's talked, because he's a really strong contender. Him and Pete Buttigieg are the top two consistently in polls.
Kelly just topped the broadest poll that they did, and I think he's a good choice on a bunch of fronts. One is, by the way, because Bashir and Buttigieg are younger and have more of a future ahead of them, whereas Kelly's the oldest of the current choices, and therefore he's going to kind of time out of his political value before they will, by a decade at least. So,
not that much older than Kamala is, but for me, and the discussion that I've had regarding this is, Mark Kelly is great. We love him in the Senate, and the Democratic governor of Arizona could replace him with another Democrat if he decides to step out, but that would lead Arizona to a special election, and that doesn't guarantee that his seat is then taken by a Democrat. We have no guarantee there. And that's why Andy Bashir is a safe choice. He can't run again for governor of Kentucky. He may be a Nepo baby, but at least he's a Nepo baby. So he's well-versed in Appalachia, unlike J.D. Vance, who's another carpetbagger. And he can truthfully speak to the opioid crisis. And the other thing that I really like about Andy Bashir is his advocacy for women and the LGBTQ plus community. He's done a lot to protect trans kids in Kentucky. That's something that's really important.
And again, I think Kelly, the other thing Kelly gives you is a border state, and Gabby as his wife, he's got a personal connection to gun violence. At the same time, as an astronaut and a Navy hero, he's harder to attack for the right. And on top of that, both his parents were police officers, so he knows and has respect for true ethic, real. But, again, we have a deep bench. It's not even that much of an argument.
That's the whole thing. Is like she could choose this glass of water, and I'd say, you got my vote. You got my vote, because I trust Kamala to pick someone who's going to be a good choice, just like Joe Biden chose her. She's going to be pragmatic. She's going to be forward-facing. She's going to be thinking about what we're going to be able to accomplish, not just immediately, but down the road. Who's going to be able to step up and take her place if they need to. Who can run the country should it come to that. And so it needs to be about more than just who's telegenic. It needs to be more about who can actually do the job when, if they need to, and we have to be able to feel that level of trust in that person as well. And so there are different, known entities and unknown entities, and we'll get to know them better, once they're solidified, and we're going to know within a week. So she has to let us know by the 7th. And so we're going to hear that. And then we're going to be 10 toes down for that choice as well. We already know it's going to be a white man. It just needs to be, one that and Pete Buttigieg is polling well too. And in the polls that I wrote about yesterday, he was polling at 21%. With anyone else, the closest person behind him was at 17%. So America might be ready for a Harris Buttigieg.
Yeah, but that's that was, by the way, amongst
but that's still a little.
Yeah, no, that's a like. No,
he goes on Fox News and he shuts them down, so you have no idea what could actually click.
Again, I also think he has value. If you're talking about the proper ladder for somebody to argue for a new type of human being to occupy the office, there are two main second stages that you can that usually can carry you through. One is a governorship. Well, I guess three. A governorship or a Senate one is kind of on the same level, but there's one step up from those, beyond those, that can help you. Secretary of State and Vice President. These are the two like stepping points that can satisfy most people's idea of how like their ability to deal with foreign as well as domestic issues. Let's say they're a governor or a senator. How much are they aware of world issues and America's issues in this process? We're getting glitchy audio. We'll try and fix that.
Yeah, I was hearing. I'm hearing like someone else is talking.
Oh, that's
like
my kid in the other room. No, that's my kid. Yeah.
Okay.
That's That's
You're not hearing the Portland construction, are you? That's happening right outside.
No, that's just my kid playing in the background. He's on Wi-Fi and he's very loud. It's a choppy issue and it happens occasionally with YouTube.
Okay, I'm fine.
Yeah. Point being is that I think Pete Buttigieg as Secretary of State is a great step.
Yes, I agree.
And tease him up to kill most of the arguments against a gay president or a gay vice president in the future. And being young, he's got time to build those bona fides for the rest of the public. And instead of rushing it and let's say it becomes a drag because there's this hidden, anti-gay vote that is, that's driven in by it, or there's we're within a narrow corridor where it drives down some of it, and it's not his fault, but he gets blamed for it. The idea of adding it to the ticket, that adds another 10, 15 years to gay people being possible on the ticket. And we don't want that. So the idea is that there's a ladder, let the ladder work, and he will continue to kill it no matter where they put him.
He has a great career ahead of him, and we all know that.
And he went from mayor to he didn't go from mayor to senator or mayor to governor and then into it. Right. He went from mayor into the administration. So even that will be seen as a sidestep government job by a big chunk of the electorate. And so what I want is them to codify his worth by making him Secretary of State, because he would be fucking fantastic.
That is a good plan.
The worst people in the world would have to talk to our gay Secretary of State. Fuck you.
In countries where being gay is still against the law.
Yes.
And that's a beautiful thing, right? That's a beautiful thing. What I also love is his regular appearances on Fox News. His regular appearances on Fox News do make a difference, because that's a huge part of the population that would not normally sit and listen to a gay man speak at all for any reason. And there's a gay man not just speaking, but telling them the truth in a way that's easy to listen to. He's not yelling at them. And he's not lecturing them. He's simply saying, well, this is what happened. And this is how it goes. And his conversational voice is just like this. And he shut down Bill Maher without raising his voice. And he shuts down Fox News talking heads without raising his voice. And he has been in front of the Fox News audience for quite some time now, so that when he's elevated from the role where he is now, where he's been amazing as transportation secretary, an amazing surrogate for the Biden-Harris administration, Fox News audience is used to seeing him and hearing him already. It won't be a very big leap for them to accept him as Secretary of State or even Vice President, because they've seen him and they get him in a way that and it's palatable, because he's not showing up in drag, he's not scary, he's not perceived as a threat, he's got a family, and
he's not a human emoji. He's not a hashtag. He's a human being.
And he talks about his family in ways that all families can relate. I remember when the twins first came to him and Jason, they were showing videos of, we can't find their shoes, we can't do this, we're exhausted, we haven't slept, we can't get them out the door now because they won't eat breakfast. We can't, it's all very normal and relatable and human because they're normal, relatable, and human.
Right.
And so
but he
it's
is
a
also
beautiful example.
very young. He's very young, has a big future ahead of him,
career.
and can
Yep,
absolutely
and
be
worried.
teed up. It can absolutely be teed up through a growth in the slot that they give him to, and I think Secretary of State would be a fantastic move for him. Period. I think it's great.
When he couldn't be pushed into violating the Hatch Act on
Right.
live TV, which Bill Maher tried to get him to do, and he was like, "No, I'm not. You're not going to." He is unflappable, which is really, really important. Very level-headed and brilliant. The way that he can be a policy wonk in a way that's not boring is essential.
He's charming,
especially to a role
He's
like
charming.
Very
Again,
charming,
because he doesn't.
very charming, which is why he'd be a great Secretary of State.
Right, and
All of it,
like
all
I
of it
said,
is
he
good.
is.
We're not saying
he is
anything
not.
that's bad.
Right, he is not an emoji, and he is not a hashtag, and and that's we have to, as much as we adore people and we think that's how you brand people to the front. For if millennials are allowed to do whatever emojis and stuff and get away with it, what the rest of us then are allowed to do is speak like adults in adult terms and remain remain within our comfort zone and our sense of humor and our joie de vivre and present our arguments to the world for why they will work.
And have those conversations. And that was the biggest message behind the white woman call, and it'll be the biggest message on every single other call, is go out and have those conversations instead of asking people, say, can we talk about this? So yesterday I went to a wedding, and there were a lot of young people at this wedding because the couple who got married, they were 23 years old. And there was multi-generational, but I ended up in a conversation with 3 young guys, and I just asked them, are they registered to vote? Because that's a great way to begin the conversation regarding this election, because we have 99 days left and we can't be precious about it. So the first question is, are you registered to vote? Great. Who are you voting for? Or have you chosen your candidate? Or you can be bold. I was at a wedding, everyone's holding a glass of champagne, and I said, are you voting for Kamala Harris? And they all definitively said yes. And one of the things that they said to me was, they're not just excited to vote for her, they're excited to have something to vote for in general, rather than just voting against. And when you're just feeling like you're voting against something, there's a lot of negativity built into that. This is a positive thing. They have something to vote for.
I would argue in the defense of Joe Biden, I would argue they had plenty to vote for in that process.
I said that too, because she was right there next to him. He chose her for a reason. You've had her all along, being the advocate for women that she is, being an advocate for communities of color that she is, being just an advocate for America. She has been all along this brilliant woman. And now people are like unearthing these old clips of her where she was the first elected official to endorse Barack Obama. There's video of her on New Year's Eve 2007 at the Obama headquarters working. It's like, you didn't know she was an advocate all this time? You didn't know she was a DA? You didn't know she was Attorney General? You didn't know this because you weren't paying attention until now. So great. Better late than never, right? We have so much to be voting for, is true, but we already had that. We already had that before this move to push Joe Biden aside because he's old and he had an uneven debate performance. He still would have brought us a second term full of awesomeness. And there's funny, I went to a party a couple of weeks ago where I was like, I'm telling you right now, Joe Biden's not going to serve a full second term. He's going to be stepping out before the midterms. I just didn't know it would be this soon before the midterms. But I believe that what he was going to do, if people had just let him alone, tee it up for a successful second term, make sure everything was secure and in place, and be like, bye, you're all good now. That's what I thought was going to happen.
I agree. And I think a lot of people,
sooner.
I think a lot of people in the Pod Save crowd thought, but I think a lot of people in the Pod Save crowd and some of those other donors knew that as well. And they saw an opportunity to get rid of Kamala.
I'm glad that came back and bit them on the ass, because everyone is so super excited and energized. You're not getting rid of her.
Because Joe Biden held the line until they made their decision about their VP, and they were stuck and they could strategize against it, and then he cut that loose. He ate all their news cycle while they
it perfectly.
Yeah, I do too. And I got to say, I have
he did it right.
Yeah, I have so much respect for how he did it. But I'm not. It will not be lost on me that a bunch of these fuckers were trying to broom both of them.
They were, and I don't know why you thought that just getting rid of like Kamala would have been like, oh, he's gone, I'll go too.
Right.
Fuck no. She has been ready for this for a very long time, and Black women have been ready for this for a very long time, and so that's why we're seeing the reaction that we're seeing, and I think. What this has done is given a lot of people more permission to be very open about their support for her, whereas maybe before they didn't feel like they could. I don't know why, what their reasons were, but those reasons are gone now. You have
I think part of it is because they didn't know what part of the administration she really was able to handle and how far she was able to go and things. And then, pardon?
The MSM. They have no idea how to cover what she was doing.
Well,
they
it's the same
never
thing with
did.
Biden's economy. Like they don't know how. They have no idea how to like message without how good things are going post-pandemic with Biden at the helm and with Kamala Harris working on stemming migration through legal means from the countries that are coming to the border, which ultimately drove the number down, but took about a year and a half of the process to do that. They have no way of talking about those successes because they are so extraordinary without sounding like they're in the tank for the Democrats. Because that's one of the problems Democrats have every time is that Republicans will wreck the fucking entire economy. Democrats will fix it. And then in just talking about how they've not only fixed it, but improved it past where it was, if you just talk normally about it, you sound like a booster. You sound like somebody who is absolutely supportive of the party itself instead of going, no, this is what the numbers are. There's no arguing with success.
That's so fucked up. That just
yeah.
tells you like shit how far gone we are. Like if this was normal time, if we still had a Peter Jennings at the helm of a nightly news broadcast, be like, here are the numbers. Here they are. I'm not telling you how to feel about them. This is just facts. Facts are facts. And when you imbue feelings into facts, that's where shit goes sideways. So the facts are, this is the most successful administration since FDR. We have the most successful economy in the world thanks to Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, to the point where we're lifting up other world economies. And you know how I know this? Because it's on the White House website. And it hasn't been filtered through anybody's feelings. Facts are facts. Numbers are numbers. There's no such thing as woke math. It's just math.
Right.
It's always been the same. Numbers add up the same way, whether it's 1980 or it's 2024. It didn't suddenly become woke to share facts. Go to whitehouse.gov/the record. Here's a thing that we did. Here's an executive order I signed. Here's a bill we passed. Here's why your life is better thanks to our infrastructure bill. It's just factual. Here's the Dow closing at 41,000 for the first time ever. Thank you, Joe Biden. Here's this world economy that looked like this under the Trump administration, and now it's here under the Biden administration. It's just numbers and facts. They're not meant to scare you, and they're not meant to make you feel in a way. Here are the numbers. You get to decide. Are these better or worse? They're better. It's just
but that's the part.
81 million more than 77 million. Yes, it is. It's just
but the numbers are so good and so distinct that like what you
Yay,
get
Democrats.
is right. You like I said, the facts are so good that every time you state them, you sound like a campaign operative because everybody's in sales now, and that's call that the evangelicization of the conversation. But that instead of worshiping whatever you believe, you just sell it like a timeshare. That's the part of the issue that we're in, and in the clickbait age. One of the things that gets us, Democrats, people on our side of the aisle, to look at an article right now is bad news for our candidate. This is the biggest story about the New York Times, is not the fact that obviously they've lost their fucking mind, which is partially true.
Right.
But that they did it to stay financially afloat because the other side doesn't read the New York Times, and they never will. And the rest of us, our vote's locked in. The average New York Times reader is going to vote for Kamala Harris and whoever she has as VP, and they've already made that decision. They're going to vote as soon as early voting starts, right? So they don't need to fucking read the paper, especially if it's full of awful. That's not going to change because you have no control over it in a stoic manner. There are things outside your locus of control you have no control over that can eat you alive emotionally, and it is part of your mental health to disregard a good portion of those things until you can have a say in it, which would be voting, right? For that example, right? These things are on autopilot. That's how it works. The New York Times knows this, but the only way they can get you or I or somebody else to go, what the fuck, and tweet out their articles or talk about them or click on them is if it's bad news for our side. So that's why the third paragraph with the yeah, but will always be an issue.
Burying the lead is the way to go for them now. And it's the Don Henley song, Dirty Laundry, you know, kick them when they're up, kick them when they're down, whatever, you know, give us the dirty laundry. It's all about, you know, if it bleeds, it leads. Sure. And really just ruined our political norms by keeping everyone living at threat level midnight. And if we're feeling oddly comforted, if we're feeling a little bit relaxed, that feels abnormal. We're not supposed to live like that. If you recall the Obama administration, did you live like this? Was your stomach in a knot all day, every day? No, because the MSM didn't micromanage his every move unless, oh my God, he wore a tan suit or said he liked mustard on his hamburger. And then it was, what? Then it was, how dare he? That's how politics is supposed to be. You're not really supposed to be putting the president and the vice president under a microscope in a country that's functioning, right? As the country was under the Obama administration, things were good. We were living fine. Everything was rolling. The Republicans weren't, I don't know, compromised and living in a cult and elevating somebody to God dictator status. They also weren't elevating convicted felon adjudicated rapist friends of Epstein as their guy. So the abnormalcy that began in 2015, we have just become inured to in 2024, and we shouldn't be. We should be continuing to demand better of the MSM. Just report on the facts that happen. People should be content with that, but no, they have to be like, we're going to scare you. But actually, you don't really need to be that scared. It's not the way. That's not the way. And if you really want people to start paying attention to you again, MSNBC, just tell us the truth. Follow the Lawrence O'Donnell model, because he seems to be the only one left on that station who can speak truth to power without being scary about it. Here's what's happening in your country. This is what's really happening. And look at what the Republicans have going on. Like, come on now. Come on. Rise up. It's time for us to rise up, look at things the way that they are, and maybe, just maybe, we can get back to a place where our political discussions are, I'm going to fucking kill you. I don't enjoy those conversations. Those aren't productive. No one hears you when you get to that point. And if all you can do now we are at the point where you're just going to be a racist, misogynist asshole. We have a million different ways to combat that. We have so many different ways to combat that. And the way to combat that is with the truth and the record that Kamala Harris has accumulated since she began her public life. We have consistent ways to push back on all of the falsehoods. Like, she imprisoned more black men than anybody. No, she didn't. The record stands. The facts are out there. If you don't want to look at facts and you want to go be a dipshit member of Elon's fanboy army, tweeting all of this crap to distract us, good luck. Because we're on message now. We're on message now, and we're not going to let you distract us from being on message. And the message is that we are unifying behind Kamala Harris in a coalition crossing across not just different communities of color, communities in the LGBT, all of us. It's cross-cultural in that it's cross-generational, because not only are Gen Z super excited, my boomer mother is incredibly excited to vote for Kamala. I talked to her also last Monday. She told me that she didn't even realize she was depressed until Joe Biden stepped aside, and it was like this feeling was lifted from all of us, where it's like, oh my God, now I don't have to keep telling you that Joe Biden can do the job. Now I can tell you how well Kamala Harris has already been doing this job, and now she's just ready to take it to the next level. Our lives and my personal job got a lot easier last week because I have so many good things to report on now. We have so much positive messaging to put out into the world. And what do the Republicans have? Right now, they're trying to make us believe that Donald Trump got his ear blown off when he didn't. The man walked around with the MAGA maxi pad on his head for a week for no reason. Christopher Wray has no reason to lie to Congress. Christopher Wray sat there, I questioned whether or not he was So you need to be asking your questions. You need to be asking questions and seeking the truth. And I would say again, to the MAGA people in the chat, you're welcome to join these calls with us. You are invited. You don't have to participate because you're not going to get to speak, but you really should start paying attention. Especially, you should get on the white man call, because the white man call is your call. The white man call and the white women call.
Hang
yes,
out.
it is. Because
no, it is fucking well is
Let
not.
me finish my. Just a minute. Time. Listen to what I have to say. The white women and the white men, you all want the same things. You've just decided you want to be mad, and the Democrats want to give you a better life. Democrats are not trying to take anything from you, not even your guns. We don't want them. We don't want to take your guns. We just don't want you to kill people. We want you to. We don't want you to have to live in Project 2025 either. You don't want to live in Project 2025 is the point. Just listen. Just come in. You don't have to participate. You don't have to change your vote.
Again, no. The point I'm trying to make is, as a straight white male, this like easy breezy racism and sexism against me does not have to stand. You do not have to draw a line around me as a person to define another group. It's weird and it's not healthy. It's wrong. And we aren't
the ones that drew those lines, is what I'm trying to erase them. I'm saying you are welcome. Come into these calls that are advertised for everyone.
No, but you didn't say everyone. You said that the maggots and the trolls, you were saying that the white man call is for you.
Same people who come in the chat every week. I'm here every week, and you tell me that there are MAGA people in the chat every week, and every week I ask them questions, and every week they ignore my questions because I'm trying to have a conversation. They don't want to participate. I'm telling them they are welcome to participate in this conversation because it impacts their livelihoods.
Right, but you're assuming they're white guys. And that's the point. And in doing so, you're really only insulting me.
Overwhelmingly so.
No, just by volume, not by percentage. Look, say what you will about the Blacks Against Trump, but they are the Black Hebrew Israelite crowds. And as I was walking through Atlanta the other day, I saw 3 of those fuckers coming off shift out of the park, walking around in their weird makeshift crowns that are the equivalent. There's a same number of those guys in the major cities walking around on street corners talking anti-Jewish shit. Who are black? That same number of those guys that there are patriot
demographic. They're a niche within a niche within a niche.
No, the Vegas demographic of that group, the equivalent would be the white identifying Latinos who want to pull the ladder up behind themselves, that came from the South American states and decided there is a caste system that's valuable down there, and decided that they, as people who identify as more with their European background than say the native background or the slave background that happened in South America, their identification is more important on that. And so fuck the people who are trying to come across the border. That is, and they will put down white or white non-Latino as their that's what that's for. That's why that shows up on census. I didn't draft that. You didn't draft that.
I understand
Jewish Americans didn't add it. But the point I'm trying to make is, when you talk so comfortably about what would effectively be this disenfranchising of the white working class, who by and large are coming around, if they haven't already, including to things like gay marriage, when you talk about how popular things, in the 70% things are for a public option, those kind of things. You're saying that not because there are more black people than there ever have been. They're 8% of the population. Black women are less of voting age are about 4%. They turn the tide in certain electoral college areas because of the volume of those voters in places like Fulton County and Atlanta and Georgia, for example. They shift the electoral college push, and it's very important. But it's the volume of voters in general, the majority of which in this country are white, that showed up and put Obama in the White House, that showed up and made sure gay marriage was a legal thing, and will show up this year to make sure that Kamala Harris is president of the United States and is our first woman and woman of color by volume. And so the vast number of straight white guys that you're talking about out there, because we're in cities, that's where the vast majority of all the people in this fucking country are. The vast majority of them are supporting her. The rural areas don't just include, by the way, white people in those areas. There are native crossover and black people in those areas who consider themselves countrified and all that shit, that vote Republican in those areas. That's why you get Tim Scotts in office. That's where that comes from. It is not as cut and dried. And the point I'm trying to make is that I will not I believe in the colorblind society, and people can strike me for that, but I will not automatically gainsay anyone based on their race or their sex or their sexuality.
All I'm saying is that everybody is welcome on all of these calls. Everybody. Even if you don't vote Democratic, you are welcome on these calls to listen.
I don't want to be welcome to the woman's call. I don't think that's, and again, that goes to like.
I didn't say that. I was talking about the white men's call. If you are a white male MAGA, you are welcome on that call. Excellent. If you are a white female MAGA, you are welcome on the white women call. You're welcome on the women call because it's all women tonight. Mm-hmm. If you are LGBTQ but you vote Republican, you're still welcome on the LGBTQ call. If you're Latino who votes Republican, you're welcome on the Latino call. You are welcome on all of the calls. But you're welcome on all of the calls by communities that you're also not a member of, so you can listen to those communities and understand where they're coming from. If you don't know, if you're not aware, if you live in a bubble, if you've never taken the time, if you've never had a conversation with anybody outside of your own community, here is a great opportunity for you to do so. You can dial into these calls. You don't have to participate. You can just listen. And then you can make your own decisions afterwards. All I'm asking is for people who have already made a decision that they're not going to support this ticket because it's a black woman on this ticket. If is doing a lot of heavy lifting here, if you are hearing my voice and you have made the decision that you don't want to know anything about this woman, I invite you to take a moment out of your life, an hour maybe. Just listen to the conversation instead of looking at Twitter or looking at Twitch or looking at Gab or looking at Elon Musk or looking at anybody telling you what to hear and think and believe and how to vote. I want you as the individual that you are, that makes your own life decisions from what you eat to where you sleep. You, the person who has made this decision, I would like for you to take some time and quietly sit in one of those rooms and just listen. That's all.
Right.
That's all. Because I have listened to the other side. I have listened to their counter arguments. I have seen it all. As someone who is involved in the democratic process, someone who writes about politics for a living, it is my obligation to be aware of what everyone else is saying.
You and I drink from the fire hose.
So that's me. That's you and I. But your average voter who is not as informed, because we were just talking about the MSM doesn't talk about the economy. The MSM doesn't talk about the positive stuff about the Biden administration because it'll make it sound like they're cheerleaders. And we've seen people say, it's not my job to be a cheerleader. No, it's your job to report the facts. So if the MSM isn't doing their job, and if you're a voter who doesn't know all of the issues, it's on you to learn them for yourself. If you're not willing to learn them, then I can't change your mind. All I am saying is I am inviting you to participate in democracy in a way that maybe no one has extended an invitation to you before. If you are someone who's identifying as MAGA on this day and can hear my voice, I am inviting you. You don't, no obligation. You don't have to. I'm just inviting you to sit down and listen. Because if you listen to an unbiased delivery of facts, these are just facts. These are just statistics that we have accumulated. And there's ways to vet these things without going to Fox News or going to Newsmax or listening to just Donald Trump. Donald Trump's going to lie to you because he has an agenda. Us as voters, our agenda is to survive as a nation and have our democracy and our republic survive. And I would love to believe that even at the cultiest core, that you believe that too, and that you want your family to thrive and survive, not just for a narrow reason, but for the broader reason, for the greater good. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to continue. It's radical. It's the radical optimism I asked people to choose to live under before Joe Biden stepped aside. And it's the radical optimism that we have to continue to live with, which is going to elect Kamala Harris and whoever she chooses. Radical optimism that this book is going to be optioned to be a streaming series, and I'm going to get a real book deal someday. That's radical optimism.
TaraDublinRocks.com, and yes, the
support
Sound of
Black
Settling.
Women. Mm-hmm. Support each other. Support your country. Support every effort to do good and better in this world.
Right, and I would, and for the maggots that are, for the maggots in the chat that exist out there, I know you will. Yeah, you will have a hard time on any of these calls. So I would suggest you just go to whitehouse.gov/the record and look at those details that are on there, and then go check them. Go check them. Don't trust us. Don't trust the White House's facts and figures. Go check them. Go watch Maria Bartiromo freak out every time one of those milestones got hit. She's so mad.
Drunk and mad that Joe Biden is such a good president and his legacy is so solidified now. I mean, he's like basically historically just put him. He's at the top of the list of the Democratic one-term presidents. He's right there with Jimmy Carter, but he got more accomplished during his term than Jimmy Carter got accomplished during his. That's just life and history. So learn from history. Go back and learn what happens when there's a Republican administration. How Democrats have to come in and clean it all up, and then Republicans are like, you didn't do it fast enough, so we want to get back in power. That's right. That's not how it's supposed to work. So anyway, everyone have a wonderful week. Please read my stuff at hillreporter.com, and please buy my book, The Sound of Settling. And there's also, I just want to say, one of your wonderful listeners, who I will not name, wants to help me get into the Foo Fighter show here in Portland. If Dave Grohl himself isn't going to do it, so thank you. Your show actually does impact regular people every day. So
that's what I'm shooting for.
So thank you. And by the way, here's something else. Right before, when you're here in September with Sexy Liberal, my mom will be here.
Yay!
My mom's going to be visiting from New York. My mom, who's so excited to vote for Kamala Harris, so she'll have to be my +1 to the Sexy Liberal show.
Oh, I insist.
You'll get to meet my mom.
I
don't think she's going to come. She's not going to come to Nerd Halen. She's not going to do that. But she'll come to Sexy Liberal. She'll come to Sexy Liberal.
I just put your Hill Reporter link in there, so that takes everybody to your articles on there, so they'll see it.
Thank you so much, guys.
Absolutely.
I'm just here to tell you the truth about stuff and not scare you. That's all.
All
Democracy shouldn't be scary.
I don't know what it is. It should be sometimes. Yeah, it should be sometimes. Keeps you alive. All right. Much love.
So does Mountain Dew. Okay.
That's right.
Love you guys.
Bye.
Have a good week. Bye.
There she goes, ladies and gentlemen. Tara Dublin. And the feistiest conversation I've had to have with her so far. And I hope you guys understand where I'm coming from. And by the way, hello. 1 second. I've got to go back a couple of buttons. Hello, chat room. Hi. How are you? Don't forget to hit that like, and if you think about becoming a member on the YouTube page, that would be a good thing. And you can gift memberships if you already are one. That's another way to help the channel. Just saying. Good. I'm glad you bookmarked it. And hopefully I will see some of you guys at the upcoming Sexy Liberal shows. I will have a regular show this afternoon. The only show that will be off this week, insofar as I know, will be Friday afternoon show, because I've got to fly to New York, and because of the timing of flying east and all that stuff. So I'll either not do a show or I'll do it earlier so I can get it out of the way, like basically morning show into it, and then so it's stored there so other people can watch it later at their leisure. Yes. Well, he did say Jehovah. So much love. Talk to you guys later. Take care of yourselves, and oh God, what a crazy week it's going to be.